Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Carrie and Dani. Um, this is another one of those not sure where the rabbit trail is going to take us conversations, which I think is kind of what it is. Dani, what's on your mind today?
Okay, so something that sort of sounds short when I explain it, but I think there's things that I haven't fully realized or thought through yet. So I'll be interested to see or to hear what you've got to say about it. Okay. I was t I have a weekly Zoom group that I get together with, and we're like a book club, and we've been meeting together for book club for over 6 years now.
Mm.
Um, and just something that stuck in my mind is One one of the one of the ladies said once, we're talking about, we're reading a religious book and stuff, and she said, "Oh, there's one place I really don't want to go and minister, and that's not a challenge, Lord." And all of us as one spoke and went, "Ooh, we
Ooh.
know where God's going to send you next." And that was my genuine automatic reaction when I said it. When as soon as she said, "There's one place I don't want to minister, and I don't, and that's not a challenge, Lord," and she said it sort of like as a joke. But as soon as she said it, my instant reaction was exactly what I said to you then. My instant reaction was, "Oh, I know where God's sending you next," meaning God's going to be sending you, woman, to that one place you don't want to go. And all of us ladies did it.
Hmm.
It was it was a unanimous thought, and we're all from different religions and different everything. So this is not about, you know, sometimes we do talk about things I think that are specific to Adventism, but I
Hmm.
think this is specific to being alive.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually, it really hit me. Okay. At the time, it really hit me, and I made a little note because I wanted to come back and keep thinking about it over the months, and it comes and goes. What hit me is that I believed my reaction. It was an instant reaction and it just popped out of me. I know where God's sending you. He's sending me you don't want to go.
Right.
And it was like a really slow realization. And it was just one of those things where I started to go, hang on a minute. What do I actually believe about God?
Mm.
Do I believe? So, yes, there's always going to be times when God asks me to do things I don't want to do. Anyone.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the reaction I gave. None of us in that conversation did. We didn't go, "Oh, well, sometimes God will ask you to do things you don't want to do, so he might consider it." We were just like, we know where he's going to send you. There was a deep certainty to it. And
Hmm.
that, even though it was said as a joke, that deep certainty caused me to consider, what do I believe about God? Do I actually believe deep within from that place, there was an automatic reaction. Do I believe from that deep place that automatic reactions come from? Do I believe that God loves me? Yes. Do I believe that he cares about the desires of my heart, my fears, and my dreams? I'd say,
Hope
yeah,
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
I believe he
Yeah.
cares about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I can come up with Bible verses and things.
Hmm. Well, and I think too oh, there
But
you
my
go.
reaction didn't. Sometimes my reaction didn't show. I believe. Have I got? We've had some unstable internet down here. I had none at all. Recently on a few occasions. So I don't know what you missed, but I was just saying that yes, I believe. If you ask me in my head,
Hmm.
I'd say yes. God believes about my desires of my heart and my fears and my dreams. But my reaction that comes from that deep gut place,
Hmm.
it showed me that in that deep gut place, I don't actually believe it. That place that your reactions come from automatically.
Hmm.
So my deep gut reaction doesn't match. I don't didn't show me that it doesn't match my exact thoughts. And
Hmm.
I just wondered what you think when you hear that. And have you had moments where you've thought those same things?
Well, and I think so too. I mean, the old saying is, don't ask God for patience because he's going to give it to you. And I think sometimes we feel like Does it come with the martyrdom complex we can have as Christians sometimes? Where if we're not suffering for Christ, we're not really doing the Christian thing right. I mean, maybe that's off the wall that just came into my head, but when you say, Lord, please don't send me to Africa or wherever, the old joke is that's a sure sign that's where you're going to go. Where does that come from? Where do we feel like God is going to automatically push us outside of our bounds of what we believe is going to make us happy or where we could serve? I don't know. Where does that come from? Because that's a standard response, like you said.
I'm hoping some of the listeners have some answers to where it's come from
Yeah.
in their life. Because I'm going to be looking forward to reading that and seeing what other people have said
Hmm.
um, on this topic. I don't know. I was hoping that if I just started discussing it with you, that things would come to mind.
Well, I know that growing up, and it's one of my favorite little stories, I think, is growing up where I did, in the midst of farms. There's farms everywhere where I grew up. And I could see, as even as a kid, I could observe that farming was hard work. It was very weather dependent. You never knew what was going to happen. And I could see that, the farm wives, the whole farm family is working really hard. I'm like, Lord Jesus, I don't want to marry a farmer. That doesn't look like any fun at all. And I grew up in a church that was close to our denominations, our previous denomination seminary. And so there's seminarians that would come through, and this church was just nasty to pastors. We couldn't keep them very long, which in general, Adventist preachers tend to move fairly frequently. But
Yeah.
it didn't look like a life that I wanted. And so, Lord, I said, I don't want to marry a preacher either. I don't want to marry a pastor. The joke was stay away from the seminary. Well, what did I do? Married a seminarian who, and we started a little farm after we'd been married for about 10 years. So, and now he's farming is more his profession.
Yep.
Exactly. And so the joke is, okay, I told the Lord, I said, that's not what I wanted, but he gave it to me anyway. So was he giving it to me because I didn't want it or because he knew that what was best for me? I think it's
I
because he
think,
knew that's what was best. But
yeah, I think there's an assumption there, though. There's an
mhm.
assumption in this gut reaction and these jokes we make. There's an assumption that anything that we don't want, God's going to purposely give us as some sort of a mean character development plan.
I was just thinking a character building exercise.
I don't think God's that petty. And if he is, he's not a God we can love.
It's true. But Ellen White did say our character is the only thing we get to take to heaven with us. So maybe that's part of where maybe it comes from in the more fundamental Adventist part is like or your character needs to be built. So let's build character by making you do stuff you don't want to do.
Oh my goodness, now that you put it like that, I am sure my mum said that to us when we were kids. This is developing your character. Suck it up and do as you're told. Your character is the only thing you get to take to heaven. I
I'd
don't know
say
if it was
that to
said.
my kids a lot too, but I'm hoping I was being a little more joking about it. Builds character. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, but did you tell your kids it's the only thing they get to take to heaven? Did
No,
you actually link the character development to God when you were cracking jokes?
no, because I don't think I ever actually believed that. Not as an adult. I always thought that was ridiculous.
Yep, and so do I. But the point I'm making is that
Mm-hmm.
what we think doesn't always match our gut reactions.
Mm-mm.
And that's where our jokes come from. We still crack jokes about it,
Mm-hmm. Because there's
which
always just
means,
a little bit of element of truth deep down in those jokes. I think that's why some things are funny because they're true, maybe. I don't
which
know.
comes back to what do you believe about God? Do you
Yeah.
genuinely believe that he cares about your fears and the desires of your heart?
Yeah.
Or do you think that he's more interested? You think that he cares about your desires of your heart and that he gives them to you and he puts them there? Um, or do you think he's more interested in character development? I mean, we did get told the story of Job an awful lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many times growing up I'd think this is really awful, and I'd want to be sad and upset and angry, but I felt that I wasn't allowed to have those feelings because God and Satan could be having a discussion about me. And God might have said to Satan, yep, you can let Danielle experience these bad things, which still means it's God's fault I was going through them because he gave someone permission to persecute me. So it still
Mm-hmm.
makes God look bad, right? And here's the catch, the real hook, the real hook that gets into you still to come yet. And so if God and Satan are having this discussion, then how I react to these terrible things is going to be, here comes Adventism, part of the proof that vindicates the lies told about Jesus at the end of time.
Mm.
Whether I say I'm angry about this and this is not fair and I don't like this and blah, 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 as opposed to me taking it as character development, could mean that maybe Jesus's character is not vindicated in end times because Revelation's all about me.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Um, there's the little hook that gets in at the end of it. There's the little non-quite biblical bit that sneaks in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but wow, where I ended up started is not where I thought I was going to end up.
Well,
Now
it,
I'm thinking, this is terrible. What a terrible way of telling kids without telling them that your feelings aren't valid, that you can't express who you really are. You need to hide your feelings, you need to stuff them down, you need to keep them in a little box. Um, because you're only allowed to show these feelings, because these are the ones that in end times is going to make Jesus look good.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Satan told lies and how we act will vindicate God's character or not. I mean, you were taught that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So talk about a giant religious trauma. Sorry, I didn't know we were talking about religious trauma today. I thought we were just talking about the
Don't we
truth and the
always
jokes
bring a
we
little,
crack.
don't we always bring a little bit of that into all the conversation?
Not
And then
intentionally.
you're talking about Job. And the big part of the story of Job is God gave Satan permission to do bad things to Job.
Well,
So,
that's how it's translated. I mean,
I
surely
mean,
there's a better
okay,
explanation.
so that was my impression. So does that mean, and I'm gonna get my Bible out here too.
Well,
And
that
to
was my impression. That's what you better check what it actually says because that's what I've
well,
been told
and
my whole life.
that was the impression that I got as a kid, you know, and the impressions that we got the correct ones or are they, you know, so how does that make you feel as a little kid when something bad happens to you or one of your friends? Oh, God gave Satan permission for that to happen.
Well,
So
see,
let me
then it depends what your definition of bad is. I mean, for some people, that's not a crisis because, maybe their definition of bad was they got sent to bed with no dinner.
right.
But my definition of the bad things that happened, as I haven't told my life story yet, I got into it, is beyond awful. I
Hmm.
mean, there's whole levels of bad here too. So I hadn't connected all of this in there either. But so what does the Bible say, Carrie? You've got yours handy?
Okay, let's see. Job chapter 1 verse 6. This is
Yep.
the SBL Study Bible, which is the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition, which is
Well, good. I like the Revised Standard Version. That's
says
quite.
one day the heavenly beings came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser also came among them. The Lord said to the accuser, where have you come from? The accuser answered the Lord, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it. The Lord
Mm.
said to the accuser, have you considered my servant Job? There was no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil. Then the accuser answered the Lord, Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a fence around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch your hand now and touch all he has, and he will curse you to your face. The Lord said to the accuser, very well, all he has is in your power. Only do not stretch out your hand against him. So the accuser went out from the presence of the Lord. And
Man,
the,
that makes God sound awful. You can do anything you want to Job, but you can't kill him and
Mhm.
release him from his suffering. He has to, like, every bad war movie where someone wanted to keep someone alive and torture them slowly suddenly comes to mind now.
Yeah. And the accuser, what's translated as the accuser, the footnote says Hebrew is the Satan.
Yeah.
So, and that, um, now don't, so he loses his property and his kids, and then, um, he didn't, and it says in verse 22, and all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrongdoing. And then in chapter 2, one day the heavenly beings again came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser also came among them to present himself before the Lord. The Lord said to the accuser, where have you come from? And the accuser answered the Lord, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it. The Lord said to the accuser, have you considered my servant Job? There was no one um, like him on earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil. He still persists in his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him for no reason. Then the accuser answered the Lord, skin for skin, all that man has he will give for his life, but stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. The Lord said to the accuser, very well, he is in your power, only spare his life. And then he gets struck with the boils and all the yuckiness. So my impression was that God always gave the Satan the permission to break Job if he could to try.
Uh, I don't have anything to say about it at this point.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch there's a big introduction for the in the study Bible and everything, but I'm not going to take the time to look at that. But I think
Well, I
more
was
we're talking about how did this affect how we thought growing up and everything, just about when unfortunate things happen to us, when bad things happen. Um, was it because, you know, God gave permission for it to happen?
I
To,
it's the reason that this conversation came to mind. So at the time that I had that experience with my friends, and I thought, wow, what does my gut reaction tell me about what I believe about God that I might not have realized?
hmm
So, and I wrote that down. So it's been journaled and diaried so I wouldn't forget to come back to it and to keep examining myself and my
hmm
beliefs. So the reason it came to mind more recently, actually, is because somebody said someone sent me like a little, those little meme thingies.
hmm
And I've seen two or three different versions of this. You might have seen one that's different, but the version I said basically had the traditional picture of Jesus knocking at the door.
hmm
That photo where he's knocking at there's a big wooden door and he's knocking on it and he's in his little robe and his long hair and yep, so he's knocking at the door and the words that go with it say something along the lines of uh, Maria, honey, let me in. And the other person says, so the person behind the door that you can't see says, well, something along the lines of, well, I would, but you never told me that you were a violent, narcissistic control freak. And and then Jesus answers back, oh, that was Old Testament me, honey. New Testament me is all about love. So let me in before I hurt you and won't let you go to heaven. And I thought, that's terrible. And then I thought, if you take the Bible exactly literally and you don't see any of it as symbolic or any of it as being a mystical book that talks about internal things that should change within us, that's
hmm
actually really, really, really realistic.
hmm Oh yeah.
Um,
The Old Testament, I have a hard time with the Old Testament God, honestly. I mean, there's some stuff in there that no thank you. Crazy. I mean, just the King David's life and all the stuff that went down with him. Good Lord. Luckily, that part of the Bible, it's descriptive, not prescriptive, but still.
so I want to ask some questions of people listening. What things do you crack jokes about that are similar to the story I shared?
Hmm.
And what do your jokes show you or tell you that you might not have considered about how some parts of you still think of God or Jesus? And then what are you going to do with that?
Hmm.
And can you actually have, can you actually love somebody that you believe would treat you that way? And like Carrie said, there's an element of truth and a lot of jokes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was just all those moments just sort of come together in my head and got me thinking.
Yeah. Some of those, there's don't really feel like you have any good answers to those questions, but it's not always going to be a nice conclusion that we can tie up and wrap with a little bow, that's for sure. But it'd be be interesting to hear what other people have to say, you know? Like you said, what do the things you joke about reveal as what you really believe, you know?
Or things that you, even if it's not things that you really believe consciously, things that unconsciously shape the way you react, things that at an unconscious level affect the decisions you make. Um, you know, if you can say out loud, yes. So for me, if I could say out loud, yep, absolutely. There's a part of my brain that totally believes that God's that mean and that petty that the minute I say, oh, I don't like this, he's deliberately going to make me go there. He's going to go, oh, there's something Danny doesn't like. Daddy doesn't like it. So character development time. Whoa, let's send her there. And so if my conscious brain said, yes, I believe that, I could deal with it
Mhm.
then. I could go, oh, okay, I don't really believe that. There's other things in the Bible that talk about how much God loves us, that He considers our thoughts and our feelings, that we're made in His image, and that He, so that the desires of our hearts and that align with His. And there's all these things I could tell myself
Hmm.
and have a logical discussion about it. Where it becomes really hard is where you don't realize where some of these beliefs that you have impact your life, where they shape your decisions unconsciously and they shape you how you and that where it shapes how you feel at an unconscious level.
Hmm.
And you're running through the world thinking, oh, I'm making logical decisions about this, but you're not. It's all happening at an unconscious level, coming from the trauma of stories that you probably shouldn't have been told when you were 5 or 6 years old. That
Right?
God said, here, Satan, persecute this person. And then being told, hey, you know what? Satan told lies about God too. And one day in the end of time, when everything gets to revelation, how you react to his love is going to prove whether those lies were true or not. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. So make sure that, you praise God for these horrible things he told Satan he could do to you.
Yeah. Mm.
Thankful and joyful. Is
Yeah.
that James, beginning of James says, I used to be able to quote it off by heart. Now suddenly I'm talking to you on a video call, I'm recording, and my brain went blank. I know exactly what it says. It was one of my favorite ones. Every time my friends were upset, I'd quote it to them. We think, consider, not think about it, hope or whatever. Consider or count. Words of the head, not the heart. It pure joy when you face trials,
Yes.
any kind, because the testing of your faith brings about perseverance.
Yeah. And then
Seriously, the number of times I'm just horrified suddenly. I'm having one of those moments again. I'm having one of those moments on camera with you where my brain goes, because we talked about spiritual arrogance in our last video, and now I'm thinking, no, the number of times my friends were going through traumas and I sent them this verse as a comfort when really they probably needed hugs, wine, and chocolate.
hmm
But what do I send them? I send them a Bible verse saying, consider it pure joy when you're being persecuted, my sweet. This is the development of perseverance in your character, and it's going to get you to heaven.
that's slapping a scripture band-aid on stuff, isn't it?
I'm so ashamed of my things
Well,
I've done, and
and I think that's just part of, you weren't taught to, like, we talk about your feelings. Feel your feelings. Your feelings are valid, but if you start getting real upset, oh no, 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 no. No, no. Consider it all joy. All joy.
you are so right. That spiritual dichotomy was taught to me all the time, Carrie.
Mhm.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
I was told that too. Your feelings are valid. Feelings aren't right or wrong. Don't judge them, but consider it joy. How did we live with all these opposing things being shoved into our tiny beings?
It's that cognitive dissonance that at some point explodes, and sometimes it's in our 40s and sometimes it's in our 50s. And then there's some people who are just still, I mean, again, it's the crazy makingness of, and it's not just Adventism. It
No,
is
it's not.
not.
There's a lot of fundamental
A
religions
lot of
gaslight their people in the same way.
fundamental Christians are the same. It's the same way, and yes, we need to feel our feelings, and they're a thermometer as to what's going on. I mean, that's something I think all of us that are coming out of a fundamental thing are struggling with, because we squashed them for so many years, and now we're like, okay, let's feel the feelings. Again, shouldn't probably make a ton of earth-shattering decisions on based on the vibes, but but it's good to consider, and they're important. The feelings are your feelings and your emotions are valid.
But see, you're still doing it.
I'm still doing
You,
it. Yeah.
you did it right now in this conversation and didn't even know you were doing it. You were like, feel your feelings,
But then don't
but
make any
don't make
decisions on them.
don't make
Yeah.
decisions based on them. And I
hmm
mean, yes, there's Bible verses for that, but what about all the ones that say, guard your heart, from it comes, it's the wellspring of life.
hmm
Wellspring of life is your heart and your feelings.
hmm
There's no stuff them back down and to make decisions on them there.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just one verse, but I mean, that's because I didn't know I was going to talk about this, or I might have gone looking for more.
Right. If only we'd planned these things better, Danny.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be the same. I
No.
really want
No.
people to come through the process with us in the hope that it triggers different thoughts in them.
hmm Yeah.
And we can always come back to it, depending on what people say.
hmm
If you've
For
got a
sure.
comment worth reading and you want us to bring it up, you stick it below.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Um, wow. Well, that
Again,
was
we
a little,
managed to fill 30 minutes.
I was going to say that was a little bit tiring. I don't have anything to say at this point.
No.
Um, are you having any of those wonderful, gifted, wrappy up thoughts? Because, like you said, some topics don't have tidy bows.
Um, I think it's definitely something that we're all struggling with, continuing to try to develop the new processes of how we look at life and make decisions, and allow our emotions to affect how we do things, and be a little more free to be ourselves and feel our feelings, which is something that, at 48, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Well, we'll see what all happens, but I think that it's worth remembering too. The Bible verse that talks about if a child asks his father for a loaf of bread, he's not going to give him a rock, or asks him for a fish, he's not going to give him a snake. Isn't that part of it? It's there somewhere, you know. You guys
Yeah,
know
it's in the
what
New
I'm talking
Testament.
about.
It's, yep, absolutely. It's one I do
So
come back to, and I'd forgotten about it in the moment.
he is a good father, and he wants those good things for us. And I think that that's important to remember. And I think who is the God that we're believing in? Are we believing in a God that's going to be vindictive and if his child wants a loaf of bread, he's going to give him a nasty old piece of gravel? No, you
They
know,
call it character development.
it's right.
Harden up your teeth.
Character development. You know, and I think is character development and fortitude and strength important to get into our kids? Well, sure. But when they are hungry, they need bread, not rocks. You know, so it again, I don't think there's a great tidy bow for this one. I'm
No,
trying to come up with something, Danny, but it's just not.
no, I think we just like take a breath and we go, this is my wrap up. Okay.
Okay.
We would love to hear your experiences.
Yeah.
Share your stories. Let us know that we are not alone in this moment. Let everybody in the future that ever watches this know that when they find this video, when it's the right time in their life and they listen to it, let them see your story too. So they
Hmm.
know that they're really not alone because there's not just our stories, but they're yours as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to come on and tell your story, drop us a note. Time zones can be awkward to manage, but
Yeah.
it can be done. So like, share, subscribe, and we'll just catch up with you, whatever comes up next time we get here.
Yep.
See you later.
We'll see y'all later.